Hi, I'm Tanya, one of the founders of Menlo, and today I'm going to show you some of the reasons why a comprehensive construction program can help make running your project easier, more efficient, reduce financial risk of liquidated damages, and provide the evidence you need in order to win extension of time claims. From my experience, most project managers and site managers have never seen a well-written comprehensive program, one that can be used from tender to completion. So I'm going to show you what MS Project can do for you to make your life easier. This will include taking you through some of the thought process that goes into your program, the inbuilt tools available and what they do, along with some of the customizations we use here at Menlo. Finally, further content for many of the topics covered in this video is available on our website, menloacademy.com, where you can also find more tools for training, support, and productivity in construction programming and scheduling.
Right, let's get started.
Here's a typical comprehensive program. Right now, we're looking at how it would be presented for tender. We've got 34 lines of information shown here, but looking at the actual finish date, it's on line 2,981. This means the program really has 2,981 lines of information, not just 34. The rest have been hidden with summary tasks to aid presentation for tender, as the client won't care to look at all 3,000 lines of the full program. The summary tasks put titles to different sections of the work, giving them the key stages they do care about on one page in a format that's easy to digest. The level of detail you put into your program is one hallmark of how comprehensive it is. We can expand these summary tasks to reveal the hidden tasks and get into the actual detail of the program. Obviously, we can look at whatever aspect of the build we want. For example, say we want to look at exterior cladding finishes on level 4 of the build. We could just as easily look at the interior fit out on, say, level 5. I'll change my view of the program into my usual daily working setup, which puts it in terms of each day of the week. If we move to the start of the program and scroll down, you can see the work that's involved a bit clearer now. Generally, we aim for the level of detail you can see in front of you. For the most part, we separate tasks at the level of the trade. So if one task would require 2 different trades, we'd separate them into 2 tasks. We also avoid having tasks that are longer than 10 days or 2 working weeks in duration. If you've got a task taking that much time, it's advisable to split it up into smaller sections. For example, splitting up one large foundation task into foundation sections A, B, and C as 3 separate tasks. Once the job is underway, this also gives you a much better staging ground to illustrate the effects on the critical path of any CIs, RFIs, or delays that occur. Another sign of a comprehensive program is the method used to estimate the durations of its tasks. The method we often see in the industry is a reliance on broad guesses, such as 6 weeks for foundations, 3 months for the structure, 3 weeks for the roof, and so on. The problem with this is that it introduces way too much uncertainty and risk into the program. For the sake of a rough example, say you're working on a project and you use broad guesses for all your task durations. From this, you work out that you'll finish the project in 12 months. Now, let's move forward to the point the project actually finishes, and it turns out it's taken 18 months. That's 6 months on the job that you haven't allowed for in your program and that you're not going to get paid for unless you can show you aren't to blame for the delay. The typical running cost of a site might be $5,000 a day. With 20 working days in a month, 6 months is 120 days. At $5,000 a day, that's $600,000 lost in site running costs. And that's your best position. You could have penalties on the job as well, say $10,000 a day for being late. So for those 6 months you didn't allow for and won't be paid for, $10,000 a day for 120 days is another $1.2 million. So you can quickly see how a broad guess approach to task durations can put you into a hole to the tune of millions you can't recover. The reason your method for estimating task durations is so important is because they ultimately influence your expected finish date. This in turn becomes the same date the client stops paying you to perform the build. So the reliability of your task duration estimates ends up being a big influence on how much money you could gain or lose on a project. The approach that we preach for estimating task durations is essentially twofold: use of labour factors and use of resources. We'll start with the use of labour factors. The majority of the durations in this example program have been estimated using them. To show how we use them, I'll show you an example of one of the calculations behind a duration estimate. First, I'll insert the column for indicators. Now you can see which of these tasks have notes attached to them, which is where we detail the calculations behind our duration estimates. So by double-clicking on the note or on the task, it brings up an information box. You can see here, for example, how I've arrived at 11 days' work for this task. So in this case, we've already measured from drawings or contract documents that there's 176 square metres of work to be done, with a labour factor of 1 hour per square metre per gang member. This means if we have one person to do the job, it will take them 176 hours to complete. But we're not going to have one person on the job. There'll be at least one gang assigned to this task. So next we've decided a gang size. Here, we're assuming that one carpentry gang will have 2 carpenters in it. So if one carpenter can do 1 square metre of work per hour, 2 carpenters can do 2 square metres of work per hour. Therefore, we divide the working hours by the gang size to get the gang time. 176 divided by 2 gives us 88 working hours. Finally, assuming they're doing an 8-hour workday, that gives us 11 days of work when rounded up. Now, you're not always going to find labour factors that fit the work you're doing. We often use labour factors from external resources like Spons and Rawlinson's. But when we can't find a factor that fits from these, we'll come up with our own. We do this by thinking through how long a unit of work will take for one construction gang member, say for example a square metre of carpentry, a square metre of wall painting, or a cubed metre of excavation. Labour factors, even ones we make for ourselves, are much better than just guessing, because we're using real-time measurements to calculate how long it is going to take. Basing more of your durations on labour factors is going to make your expected project duration more realistic, which in turn stands to save you money. Here at Menlo, we have a growing library of content dedicated to the calculation and application of labour factors,
including a catalogue of labour factors we've created and use ourselves, available as part of a Menlo Academy subscription. Next, we'll cover the use of resources. You may or may not have experience with resources in your program. However, they are critical to its effectiveness. They're absolutely required for a comprehensive program. If I drag across here to show you the resources column, you can see our example program is fully resourced. When you're putting your program together, you start by programming your tasks on the basis of how they'll play out logically, or, in other words, their sequencing in relation to each other. However, once you've done with that, a problem arises. Whilst you have to program purely on logic to set your program out as a necessary first step, you're assuming in the meantime that you've got unlimited resources available to carry out the work whenever you need them.
Now, we all know from experience that this isn't your reality. You're going to have limitations as to which resources are available for you to carry out the work.
This matters a great deal, as the amount of resources you dedicate to a task also controls its expected duration.
So assigning your resources to your tasks is the step that follows programming out on the basis of logic.
Unfortunately, something we often see is companies stopping once they've programmed on the basis of logic and not incorporating resources into their programs
at all. The importance of resourcing can be illustrated with a typical bricklaying task. Generally, a bricklayer working on facework can easily lay around 500 bricks a day, so a team of 2 bricklayers can lay 1,000 bricks a day. If you have 30,000 bricks to lay, that one team of 2 bricklayers can get the job done in 30 days, which is essentially 6 weeks' work. 2 teams will take 3 weeks. And if you don't have 3 weeks to get the work done, then 6 teams will get it done in a week, provided you have enough work faces available without them getting in each other's way. So it's not just the labour factors that are vital to your duration calculations.
Remember, labour factors allow you to estimate how long it would take one gang member or gang to carry out the work. The way you resource your program after that, such as the number of gangs you allocate to tasks, will also heavily influence its duration.
In this section of the video, I'm going to show you how to navigate a comprehensive program to find the information you want quickly. This is because of an opposing viewpoint we sometimes hear from the industry, which is that programs like the one I'm showing you are too complicated. With respect, we disagree. A comprehensive program is very likely to contain more detail, and so the real problem is that people haven't been shown how they can navigate a detailed program to find what they need. If the program becomes a hassle to use after you put a load of work into it, you aren't going to see the benefits of doing that work. At that point, it becomes very easy to write a program like this one off as too complicated.
If you were trying to find a number in a phone book, it's unlikely that you'd start at page 1 and read through every page until you've found what you're looking for. But with a large program, if you don't know any better, you might think starting at the beginning and scrolling down is the only way to get to the information you need. Luckily, there are some ways to make finding what you want very easy. There's two basic parts to the way we navigate our programs: summary tasks and filtering.
As mentioned earlier,
it's ideal to use summary tasks to break the work up into various sections, like a book with chapters. That said, you're then likely to have a lot of these chapters, so finding your way around with these may not be best.
The other way you zoom in to look at the work you want is by using filters.
Every column in this program is filterable, meaning we can use them to search for and show only the type of information we're interested in. Now, to make certain tasks easier to search for, as we put the program together, we usually insert a custom text column and rename it to workstream, which is used to sectionalize the work. So, for example, say we just wanted to look at the foundation works. Say, Zone 1, Zone 2A, and Zone 2B. By selecting them and then clicking OK, the filter has been applied. We can't see it right now as we scroll down, so I'll click Ctrl plus Home, which is a shortcut to take me to the top of the program. And so here is all the work in these 3 zones. Okay, so we want to look at first fix works. So now this is all of the first fix works for every apartment. We can filter on from this. Say we just want to look at the first fix in apartment 101 and 102.
Now I'm only looking at the first fix works for those 2 apartments. So by using filters, you can very quickly zoom in and out of the program and only look at what you want to work on. This is particularly useful to site managers, as it lets them look at specific sections of work.
It also allows them to pull out programs that work for specific trades whenever they like, so they know exactly what resources they need over any given time. Say I just want to look at the carpentry work. I can filter here for carpenters. So we've got a number of carpentry teams on this job, and they're all being used at some point. So now, within the first fix for apartments 101 and 102, this is all the carpentry work.
I can press F3 as a shortcut to remove all the filters we've applied. Let's now look at the electrical works. I can put up a full program for electricians for the whole job. And as you can see, we've got 9 electricians allocated for work on the job. For this electrical subcontractor, this is their total program of work, showing how many guys are needed and where they're needed. Again, pressing F3 to remove the filter. Now, another great way we can use filters is to create look-ahead programs. Something very important for a site manager is knowing what will be happening in a few weeks' time. Because of this, look-ahead programs are very useful. However, we've also seen many instances where site managers spend multiple hours writing small look-ahead programs from scratch. We're not kidding. We think that generally, this is down to the way that tender programs become redundant as soon as the contract is won. If the program lacks any useful information, it gets stuck in a drawer and forgotten about.
The way we see it, if you've got a decent program to start with, creating a look-ahead program is quickly and easily doable by filtering for the chosen date range. So if I wanted to see everything that was happening in September, I'd go into the filter options on the start date column, deselect everything by unchecking Select All at the top, then scroll down to September and check the box for it, then press OK. It filters for tasks occurring within that month and pulls up all of the information for you, just like that.
We can also create a look-ahead program via the grouping tool. This is shown just above the main filter. So I'll hit F3 to remove the previous filters and we'll start again.
So, if I want to now create a 3-week look ahead, instead of using these filters, I go to the group, and this allows me to group the works by a date. We've got months, weeks, whatever we need. In this case, I'll group it by weeks. Now you can see that the weeks are all listed week by week.
We're sitting on the 9th of August right now. If I say I wanted to see all of the works that are due to start within 3 weeks commencing the 9th of August, I just open these weeks up and there's my 3-week look ahead of the works. So what if I want to look at the last 3 weeks of the job? I just expand the summaries for those weeks. Now, they're not showing here at the moment because they're off to the right. But there's a handy little tool called Scroll to Task, which normally sits in the task column here. We usually have it in the ribbon here for easy access, as we use the Scroll to Task tool a lot. So press the Scroll to Task button and it takes you to the task you've got highlighted. So these are the tasks that are going to be happening in the last 3 weeks of the job. This is the key to finding your way around the program quickly and being able to zoom in on work and pull up the information you need. This is particularly useful for site managers. From a site manager's point of view, this is a terrific tool because it lets them see just the work they need to focus on at any given time. Now, if I just remove this grouping filter and go back to the start. Another useful filter is the critical path filter. To see this, we go into the View, and under the Filters drop-down, we've got a number of default filters. If I choose Critical Path from the default filters, you can see it highlights all critical path tasks in red. I can use this to help me focus on other work that I know has got to be completed on time to stay on track. This leads me into my next point. It's just as important to know what's on a critical path as it is to know what's close to being on the critical path. We can do this by looking at the total slack we've got in our tasks, as total slack is how much a task can slip before it affects the critical path.
Before I show you this, I'll take away the filters we've got on right now, which I can either do by clicking No Filter in the Filters drop-down in the View tab, or just by pressing F3 as a shortcut. So, to see the total slack on our tasks, I'll insert a column here for total slack. Now you can see the ones that are critical have 0 days of slack. Everything else on the program has varying amounts of slack in relation to the critical path.
Another thing you can do is insert a graphical indicator that gives you a quick visual warning for how close a task is to being critical. I'll add in a column we've created here called Close to Critical Slack. You can see that everything that's critical shows up as a red dot. Anything that has got 5 days or less shows up as a yellow dot.
And finally, anything that has between 5 and 10 days shows up as a clock.
Essentially, all the tasks with one of these indicators do not have the time to wait around. In other words, you can't put these tasks off for long without becoming critical. So if this job was to say move by 2 weeks, it would become a critical path item. These indicators have been set up using custom formulas.
We won't get into them here, but we've got content dedicated to how you can easily set this up for yourself available in our video library. Now, something else that can aid how useful your program is formatting your Gantt bars with a consistent style depending on what the task represents.
Formatting your Gantt bars with a consistent style for different types of tasks really helps your program make more sense, whether it's for you and your contract team working on the program or for the client understanding it at your PCG meetings. So we've got the red bars for critical path tasks and blue bars for normal tasks, but you notice we've got various different coloured bars in here as well. We use these formats to represent different types of waiting time or delay. These ones, for instance, indicate lead times. This is for procurement lead time, and these ones show a waiting time for propping. You may or may not be aware that you can go in and individually change the format of Gantt bars by double-clicking on them in the Gantt chart. However, this would be incredibly time-consuming for a large program, and luckily, there's a better way to do it. We have a formatting column set up that has a drop-down of optional formats to choose from, so any of these options will instantly change the way the Gantt bar looks. We've got queuing time, delays, lead time, procurement leads, queries, RFIs and CIs, so anything that would be variation work or potentially in dispute, and finally waiting time for when we're waiting on a response from a client. This is all very useful to allow us to quickly go through and change the look of our Gantt bars in a consistent way when we want to show different types of waiting time or delay. Once again, the setup for this formatting column is beyond the scope of this video, but we have tutorials dedicated to it on our site. So hopefully that gives some insight into what a comprehensive program is and what it can offer you. It takes more work at the start, but a comprehensive program done right can bring you massive gains for the business. It improves efficiency on site and gives your site managers the ability to manage the project using informed decisions. It helps you to spot problems long before they arise, helping you avoid delays. In essence, it becomes the life story of the contract and the project, because it lets you track and prove the true effect of changes in scope and delays and variations and whatever else happens. This helps you win your extension of time claims, which offsets your risk and improves your contract admin. It saves you financially as well, because it makes sure that you not only get paid for the extra work you do on site, but you get the extension of time to avoid having to pay the damages as well. The topic runs deeper, and we can go into more about how and why the program is a useful and important tool that is essentially underused. If you're in a company that doesn't have a decent program, or doesn't use a decent program, or you just want to know more, visit our site, menloacademy.com, where we have a lot more content available surrounding construction programming and scheduling. We have some free taster videos on there that may help you out. However, with a subscription, you gain access to a much broader library of content where we go deeper into best practices to get you the best results, as well as direct construction programming support. Send us an email at JustAsk@menloacademy.com and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Now that's all for this video. I hope it was useful to you, and we'll see you in the next one.